Hello and welcome to this week's episode, and we are visiting Oman, and our plan is to stay in Muscat for 3 nights, then attempt to wild camp on a road trip for 7 nights, so in total 10 days, and we will be visiting Muscat, Al Sifah, the Bimmah Sinkhole, Ras Al Jinz, Wadi Bani Khalid, the Wahiba Sands, Masirah Island and Nizwa. Let's get stuck in. Hello, I'm James, and this is the Winging It Travel Podcast. In 2023, I spent a year travelling the world with my girlfriend Emma. Join me as I take a look back over our epic trip, and remember to like and subscribe to keep up with our adventures. Our flight from Abu Dhabi to Muscat was rescheduled for the day after, which was not ideal and a bit of a ball ache. So we headed to the airport anyways, as we had no accommodation, and it was absolute chaos. We were there for 4 to 5 hours, but we did end up staying in the Crown Plaza Hotel, which was one of the nicest hotels I've ever stayed in, free food, etc. But we had a 2:30 a.m. alarm call the next morning as the flight was super early. But one tip here is avoid Wizz Air. And we finally made our way to Muscat about 7:30 a.m. and we kept our hotel booking because we booked the night before, so we could go straight there, check in, get some breakfast and take a nap. Our hotel of choice is called Muscat Express Hotel, and it did include breakfast. And as I said, this day was going to be recovery, so we had some sleep, completed some admin, went to the Avenues Mall, which was a 20-minute walk from our hotel, and got some food shopping in for our road trip. On our first full day of sightseeing in Muscat, we walked to the Sultan Qaboos Grand Mosque, which is about a 20-minute walk from the hotel, but the weather is absolutely sweltering, and it was quite a nice walk, just super hot. And this is the biggest mosque in Oman. The entry is free, and you are required to dress up. And instantly, the architecture was absolutely stunning. The walls were so clean and cool. The grounds of the mosque makes you feel like you're in the Gardens of Eden, and each room in the building was spectacular with a lovely cool temperature. And as I looked around, all I see is marbled walls, lush green spaces, prayer carpets, white exterior, quaint little walkways, and complete tidiness with respect to the grounds. And the mosque is relatively new, having been completed and inaugurated in 2001 by the Sultan of Oman. And this impressive building is a must when visiting Muscat. We spent probably about an hour there, and for free activity, you cannot complain. Just a little note about the currency here. The Omani Rial is one of the strongest currencies in the world. 1 Rial is $2.60 US, so bear that in mind when you see the prices in low denominations. And the next morning is the start of our road trip, so we headed to the airport to pick up our hire car from Europcar, and that is 116 Rials for 7 days. Then we drove to Nomad Tours to meet Chris, the owner, who was lending us his tenting equipment. So in total, this was 186 Rials for 7 days, and Chris gave us a map to help us out and some great advice too. Our first stop was Muttrah, which is in Muscat, but by the coast, which is where some of the cruise ships enter, sigh, but it has a lovely corniche with some great souks for shopping. And we stopped off for a coffee first at Bella Vista, which had like a Greek feel to it. Lovely, let's hear more. I'm here at Bella Vista Cafe in Muscat in Oman for a trendy coffee. Fantastic place. Let's give it a taste. Oh yeah, that's super like coffee. And that's absolutely fantastic. We checked out the Corniche and the souks and decided to hit the road to make our way to Al Sifah, where we're camping for the night. And the one thing we noted whilst in Muttrah was the weather. It was super hot and we were slightly worried. However, the first impressions of the roads in Oman were very impressive. Well paved, no speed bumps, good speed rules, and dual lanes everywhere, and not too busy either. The drive to Al Sifah was 1 hour and very smooth. We found a nice little spot underneath a tree by the beach and it was perfect. There was literally no one here. Wild camping in Oman is totally legal, but just bear in mind there are no facilities for you whatsoever, so make sure you pack your spade and some toilet roll, you're gonna need it. After setting up our tent, we made our way to the beach and look at the views here. Absolutely sensational, just look at this. If I'm honest, this is exactly what I imagined Oman to be like when on the coast. Pristine beaches, warm water, views way into the distance and not much human contact. And we had a lovely evening chilling out, trying to get the breeze into our tent and adapting to new surroundings. After a good sleep in the tent, not too warm with the breeze, we got up early for sunrise and look at these colours. Then for breakfast we made scrambled eggs, which was great in my opinion given the conditions, and we made some observations after the first night. Firstly, it was still warm despite the breeze, and any hotter would be very uncomfortable. We also found it a tad eerie with no other campers around. We literally were the only people there. And finally, having to go to the toilet is challenging with just a spade in hand and some toilet roll. You're gonna have to take your toilet roll with you and find somewhere to do your business, and couple that with how sweaty you are. It is not easy, but we still enjoyed the first night. And our saving grace was our car, because it had aircon, so we packed it up and hit the road and headed towards the resort of Jebel Sifah. This place was deserted but open because it's still the low season, and had a shop and a cafe. And we used the aircon, had great coffee and used the washroom, much needed. And next for us this day is one of our top places to go and see. So we hit the road and headed towards the Bimmah Sinkhole, which was about an hour away, and this is absolutely stunning. You can park up for free, enter the site for free, which has changing rooms, get in your swimming gear and head for the sinkhole. Just be respectful of your clothing as the signs dictate. But as you can see, super clear, green, lush water. The site is protected with some shade too. It can get pretty deep in that water, so beware. And in hot weather, this is a dream to swim in, and we made the most of it. Just beware of the little fish nibbling away at your feet, but honestly, this is a must. We probably spent about an hour there, and we did not want to leave, but we had to, so we forced ourselves out of there and hit the road towards Sir to get coffee at Brew Oz. What a find this is, back to that in a second. The ultimate aim is to head towards Ras Al Jinz, and as we approached the area we started to see that this had no shade or cover, and we're not keen on camping because of this, so we headed straight to the welcome centre to book our tour for the evening to see some green turtles. And Chris made us aware of a guest house there called Turtle Guest House. Because the owner knew Chris, he gave us a bit of a discount and we had a room for the night, and he let us cook dinner on his artificial grass in the grounds of the hostel, and the price was 23 rials for the night with breakfast. So we checked in, cooked our food, then headed out to the welcome centre to start our tour at 8:30 p.m. And we were divided into groups, and there were a few rules here. No white light and no noise really if you can avoid it. But unfortunately there were kids on the tour, so the noise rule was broken within seconds. And after an hour we saw a huge green turtle, which was a mother digging to make room for her eggs. And we were assured that the red light does not disturb them and we were not affecting nature at all. It was pretty unreal to be fair. Not seen much like it before, and we even saw a little diddy turtle making a run for the sea. We headed back after the tour for a great sleep and a shower. And next morning we're off again on the road towards Sir to brew Oz coffee. It was so good, we had 2, so let's hear more.
In terms of location, it's a tough one to really describe because on Google it will say unnamed road. Essentially, it's part of what looks like a new complex. So I'm not sure in terms of where to describe it. Just put it in Google and it will be there. And Sir is quite small, so it should be easy to find. They have specialty coffee from Saudi Arabia. Enough of me gabbing on, let's get to the tasting of the coffee. First of all, great cup. That is exactly what you want for a cup. 1 Rial 4 for Americano. Let's give it a go. Oh, it tastes so good. Oh.
About an hour away from Sir is the little oasis called Wadi Bani Khalid. This is situated in the mountains, and this is a nice little oasis in the middle of absolute desert. A very popular site, so parking may be difficult, but once you're there and you're in, it is awesome. You can swim in the pools or climb up to some more pools. I think the walk is about 20 minutes upwards, but it is in the heat, so you need to weigh that one up, but I'm sure it is worth it. But we're content with our little patch in the shade and a little swim in the pools. This place was absolutely teeming with colour and warm water, and I just love the vibe and the calmness of the area. A real mix of tourists and locals, and lots of families there indeed as well. And some amenities like a restaurant and some washrooms if you need. We dried ourselves off and headed towards the Wahiba Sands. So one of our aims in Oman was to book a night in the desert, in a camp, and get that real Bedouin desert feel. And we met the owner at Al Wazil at the gas station there, and it's called the Desert Retreat Camp, and it's pretty expensive at 43 Rials a night, plus 25 Rials if you need transport in and out of the desert. If you do not have a 4x4, you will have to book this transport as they only allow 4x4s. However, the owner picked us up and drove us to his camp where we had tea and fruit as a welcome. He was wrapping up for the season, so we weren't joined by too many people apart from a couple of men from Belgium. And the owner left us to our devices as we headed up to the sand dunes to get some views. Look at these colours and the landscape. Unreal.
Are you sure?
You do really feel that you are in the middle of the desert and nowhere to be seen. However, this is the home of the Bedouin people, and it's good to get some kind of experience of how they live in this type of terrain. The sunset was incredible and so peaceful, and we had some great food in the evening and spoke to the Belgian guys for the rest of the night. All in all, quite a strange experience if I'm honest, and nothing compared to the experience in Jordan, in Wadi Rum, where there are more interactions with the tour owners and the locals. This felt like we were left to our own devices a little bit with the staff who are working there. So an interesting vibe. However, we did get some sun and views, and the beauty is unrivaled. The next morning, the owner came back to the camp and picked us up and drove us back into Al Wasil. And on the way back, he treated us to some sand bashing in the Jeep, which was quite interesting and thrilling. I absolutely loved it. And we are back on the road as we had a 4-hour road trip to Shana Port to get a ferry to the Masirah Island at 3 p.m. En route, we stopped off for a few coffees at Vo Coffee in Bidia and then Better Speciality Coffee in Al Ashakara. The journey was pretty smooth, but just a top tip here, if you want to book tickets for the ferry, you're going to have to do it in person unless you have an Omani credit card or debit card, which you will need online. So we obviously didn't have that. But no drama, we went to the ferry terminal and booked for the 3 p.m. ferry, and the tickets cost 16 Rial one way for 2 people and a car, and we got across the Masirah Island all fine. We were ready for a bit of island life, and before we got stuck in, we headed to a supermarket on the island to get some basic food for dinner, and then our aim was to find a spot on the beach, and some of the roads are dead ends, so beware on Google Maps. We drove down the same side of the island as Hilf, the main settlement there, and found a spot near Sir Masirah settlement. And it's quiet with a breeze. However, I did get slightly stressed with the huge ants. I don't know why, but it's stressing me out. But the one saving grace is we did feel the temperature cool down with that breeze on the island. Much cooler and much needed. And we even got a cheeky shower in using our water pump, which was a treat indeed. A quiet night was had, and in the morning we had breakfast, then headed out to Hilf, the main settlement, to head to Event Specialty Coffee for an espresso, and the manager there was super kind. He was from the Philippines, and we got chatting. A super cool guy. Go and see him. And our aim was to see the island in full. There is one road that goes all the way around the island, and it is paved. And we were told of some idyllic beaches. So we headed off to a place called Shinzi. We agreed to come back there for the night, as it's quite a nice little camp spot. And one of the beaches en route to see was the Biada beach, and it had the classic Indian Ocean feel, warm water, lovely sand, and big crabs. Take a look. A very casual day as we headed around the island on the road, stopped off anywhere that we thought was interesting, some nice beaches, some lovely water, and then we camped for the night at Shinzi. And it's very blustery this night. It felt like the wind was on top of us, but we did wake up to turtle tracks in the sand meters from our tent, which is unreal. And the morning was calm, which was crucial for the ferry back to the mainland. If it was too windy, it would have been cancelled. So the ferry's at 7 a.m. and it was super quiet. And the last part of our road trip was heading to Nizwa in the middle of the country. And a great coffee shop on the way to Nizwa is called Caldo. Definitely worth a visit, and cheaper prices as well. And the one thing about Omani coffee is it tastes absolutely incredible. I was so surprised, and I couldn't believe how all the coffee shops had great coffee. Worth a note. Some of the best yet. The road to Nizwa is very good and quite new. 120 kilometers along that road, and you can overtake pretty easily, so we got to move on. And as we approached Nizwa, we realised that the temperature was 40 degrees Celsius, so there's no way we're camping in that heat. So we decided to book in at the Nima guest house, which was 33 rials for 2 nights with breakfast. Sadiq is the manager there. He's from Pakistan and is an absolutely great guy. He'll help you out with anything that you need, including laundry. After lunch at Dynamite Lab, we chilled in the guest house in the aircon for a while, doing some admin for the podcast and planning the next few days. The next morning, we're up early for our breakfast before heading out to Bala to visit the Bala fort. But first, of course, is another awesome coffee recommendation for you at Bun Al Muttrah. Unbelievable coffee and aircon. This is a Burundi roasted bean. It's got nice little hints of coffee, chocolate, and peach in this. Let's give it a go. Oh, that is absolutely sensational. Entry to the fort is 3 rials, and we spent an hour climbing the stairs to get the views, visiting each of the rooms and breathing in the history. I absolutely love the surrounding views of Nizwa and Bala. It's also boiling hot, and a hat with sun cream is a must. We did need another bit of aircon and a coffee, so we headed across the road to Kadum and just look at this place. This cafe is hidden amongst a historic souk, and you get your own little room to have coffee. It has aircon and a nice coffee table. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. This is definitely my favourite cafe of the year so far, and great tasting coffee as well. Let's marvel at this gem. Anyway, let's get to the coffee. They do serve here Brazilian coffee. It's not Omani, but it looks great. It's an espresso blend. Let's give it a taste. Cup without handle, not sure. Oh, that is absolutely top notch. Oh, so good. We didn't really want to leave, but our aim was to hit Jabreen Castle, which was a 10-minute drive away, and again a 3 Rial entry fee. Much like Bada Fort, we climbed the stairs, seen as many rooms as possible, drinking up the history and seeing the views of Jabreen. Well worth doing. For us, this felt like the end of the Omani adventure, as the next morning we made our way to Muscat airport to drop off the car, as well as Chris's tenting equipment, and we stayed at a hotel near the airport ready for our flight next morning to Kathmandu in Nepal. Some reflections on the trip. I thought it was absolutely incredible, to be fair. Despite not achieving our aim of camping every night, we definitely learnt a few lessons here, and here are some to consider for you. If you're travelling in May, beware of the weather, as it can be really hot. So if you can, head to the hills or mountains for camping, as the temperature will be much lower. My next lesson learned was you do need to rent out a 4x4 Jeep, if I'm honest. A 2x4 will get you to certain places, but you are not allowed on some roads, especially in the mountains, so a 4x4 is needed for places like Jebel Shams, for example. And lastly, another lesson is just the Rial is so strong. Just beware of the expense of Oman. It can be really expensive. The only cheap thing there is the gas, which is great for a road trip. But what a trip! We saw so many amazing views and sights. We had an array of different experiences like the little oasis, the idyllic beaches, the unreal views, the amazing wildlife, great tasting trendy coffees, the most welcoming people, one of the safest countries to camp, great roads and a lot of history. It was the most wholesome trip. Thank you Oman, shukran, and I will be back. Cheers. Please follow and subscribe on my YouTube channel today, and please rate and review the podcast on any podcast platform that you use. Thank you.